All right, welcome everyone. We're doing our 30-minute challenge. We're on day 10 today, which brings us to another skill set day. So we are working on our pedal stroke today. So for the first 5 minutes, for those of you who have already been sitting on your bike for a few minutes, you can slowly start bringing in a little bit of gear, just up to your 4 out of 10, no more than 5 out of 10. We'll spend the first 5 minutes warming up, officially warming up. Keeping that cadence nice and high, and then we can chat a little bit about what we're doing today. So bringing in a little bit of pressure under your legs when you're ready. We still have over 4 minutes until we begin our main sets. So this morning, you'll recall our first skill set was working on cadence, on our RPM. Today we are taking part of that and working on our pedal stroke. So we do have a cadence main set in the middle today, but we're also going to be working on our single leg drills to really refine those circles that our legs are turning. So we actually are going to bookend our middle main set, our RPM set, with the single-legged drills. And what our goal is to make note of our dominant leg, our less dominant leg, and working through what might be the little gaps in that circle, which really come out when you're only using one leg. Now, we all have a dominant leg. We think we're turning both legs around, spinning circles, we're pretty even, but power meters that can differentiate between both sides usually show some sort of an imbalance. It could be minor, it could be up to 3 or 4%, depending on the person. Your dominant leg would be your leg that you would kick a ball with, and often that leg is pushing a little bit harder. So by working on smoothing out your pedal stroke and balancing yourself out, you're bringing your less dominant side back up to equilibrium, because you're only going to be going as strong as your weaker side. So we're going to engage our core, our power center. We're going to try and stay nice and balanced over our bikes. When they do these single-legged tests, sometimes they actually will weight the pedal that doesn't have a foot on it, just to try and mimic that. But for our purposes, and for most training purposes, we're going to be dangling our leg off to the side of the pedal. Not on the back, not on the front, right off to the side. So another minute and a half, and we'll get into that first single-legged drill. We're going to start with 30 seconds per side, and then 60 seconds per side. So a total of 3 minutes on the single-legged drills. And where you will want to be for your cadence and watt output, that's a little bit for you to play around with. And you have a few sets to do that with. Generally, an endurance climbing sort of cadence in the 70 to 80 watts. And then, 70 to 80 RPMs. And then your watts, not too easy, not too hard. So you're going to want that somewhere where you can turn a nice circle. The circle's not getting ahead of you, and you're not bogging down. So that's where you can experiment a little bit with. So you can turn those perfect circles for the entire length of the drill. So we're going to be starting our first leg in 15 seconds. You can choose which leg to start with. I'll call out taking the left leg out. In 3, 2, 1, left leg out. looking up the road, making sure your elbows are relaxed, and you've got your core engaged. We're 30 seconds on this first side. Just think strictly about what that leg is doing. Five more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Put both feet back on. Couple of pedal strokes here. And we'll take our right side out, our second side out. 30 seconds. Nice and smooth. You want to pull that foot right across the bottom, like you're scraping something off the bottom of your shoe, and engaging that hip flexor as you pull your foot up through the back of the circle, and then right over the top. We don't want any clunking as you come up and over the top. Nice and smooth. And 3, 2, 1. Put both feet back on. A couple of circles here. And our first leg back off again. Left leg out. We're going for a minute this time. So settle in. Again, engage that power center. Make sure you're nice and square over the bike. Relaxing those elbows and looking up the road. Nice work. Nice and smooth. This gives you a good opportunity to slow your breathing down, have a nice steady pace, play around with your cadence a bit. But another 10 seconds. And 2, 1. Both feet back on. And right leg out. So we've got our final side for 1 minute. Find your position. Note which leg feels like the dominant leg. Are you a right-legged or a left-legged? And whichever one is your least dominant, perhaps that one gets a little more attention throughout the rest of the winter-spring season before we get out on the road. Nice and smooth. I've got my cadence in the low 70s right now, if anyone's watching my legs. Another 15 seconds, and then we have a minute transition. Nice work, nice and smooth. 3, 2, 1. Both feet back on. Let's find that 3 out of 10. Your 30%, bringing your cadence back up between 90 and 100. And we'll talk about what our main set is. We are going 4 times through, 4-minute set. So our first minute, we're going to be at 50 to 60% watts, so you're 5 to 6 out of 10, starting at your preferred cadence. So ideally, that's around 90-ish. And then over that first minute, we are going to bring our leg speed up to 105 RPM. For the second 2 minutes, we're going to reduce our watts back down to 5 to 6 out of 10, 50 to 60%, and spend that 2 minutes at that 105 RPM. The final minute will be a minute back here, which we call easy, our 3 out of 10. We'll repeat that 4 times, with the 2 minutes in the middle, trying to increase that RPM each time through. So we're going to go in about 15 seconds. So start bringing your gear up to your 50 to 60%, in and around that 90-ish preferred cadence RPM. We're on in 5 seconds. 2, 1. Once you've settled into that wattage and RPMs, let's slowly start to bring that cadence up now. Over the next 45 seconds, we want to get to 105 RPM. So let's start bringing that up. Should be going through 95. We're halfway there. Should be getting up to 100. Make sure your gear isn't too hard. 15 more seconds. Moving up over 100. We're closing in on 105. 10 more seconds, you should be there. And 3, 2, 1. Adjust your gear back to that 50 to 60% watts, 5 or 6 out of 10. And hang in there at the 105. We're gonna go at this cadence for the next 2 minutes. So obviously the purpose of this is not to hammer our legs out at a very high wattage output. This is to really focus on our neuromuscular system. So we're teaching our muscles how to engage in this faster turnover when there isn't a lot of pressure on the pedals. We're also teaching our legs how to stay stronger longer. Like we said last week with the RPM skill set, you are going to have more endurance with a lower gear, higher cadence. Your legs are going to fatigue less fast. And if you're finding 50% a little too spinny, a little too fast, maybe a little too choppy on that circle, move up towards that 60%. Nice work. Another 30 seconds to go here. Settling into 105. If you want to bring your easy back down to the 50% range, that's fine. Somewhere between 30 and 50%. So we're back there in 3, 2, 1. So bring your leg speed back down to your preferred cadence. Somewhere in that 30 to 50%. 3 to 5 out of 10. Something where you can catch your breath, take a little break, grab a sip of water, and then we'll begin again. After much time spent in the first 9 days really working hard, it's nice to have a different skill set to work on. 15 seconds, and then we're back to our 50% at your preferred cadence, preferably the low 90s, 90 to 100. 2, 1. So find your 50%, 50 to 60%. I'm moving up towards my 60% for this. I find I have a little bit more grab on my pedals for the higher RPMs. And moving that cadence up. As we come to 30 seconds, we should be moving through 95, through 98, seeing 100, not too far off. Nice slow build up. Telling your legs, who's boss here? And moving right on up to 105. In 3, 2, 1. If your gear got ahead of you, back it down to that 50-60% range. We're starting here at 105 for 2 minutes, but we're gonna move up to 110. So get comfortable at 105. We'll stay here for just about a minute and then start moving up. Once you've found that RPM and your good watt output, start looking up the road, thinking about your core, and thinking about what those single leg drills felt like, pulling right through the bottom and right around the back. With both the single leg drills and these higher RPMs, we're engaging our hip flexors a lot more. Let's start moving our RPMs up a bit. Can you get to 106, 107? Don't touch the dial. We'll keep your gearing. We'll keep our gearing the same. Moving up through 107. We are inching our way up to 110. 30 seconds to go. Let's find that 110. There you go. I can see a lot of fast moving legs and not a lot of fast moving heads, so that's a good thing. 5 seconds, then we're back to our 1 minute easy, 30 to 50%. 2, 1. Slow your legs down back to that low 90s or your preferred cadence. And catch your breath. And when I say we're using our hip flexors, which you notice more on the single leg, but you definitely notice on this, that's a really massive system that runs all the way from your legs up and through into your power center. It's responsible for pulling that leg up, which when you're at a lower wattage output, higher RPMs, you're relying on your musculature quite a bit for that. So it's awesome strengthening without putting too much pressure on. Finding 50%. We're back on for our third set. 50%, your preferred cadence. Building back up to 105. Move up to 60% if that's feeling pretty good for you. All right, moving back up through the mid 90s, 96, 97, closing in on 100. Just over 20 seconds to go. Moving up through 100 RPM. Finding that 105. And in 5 seconds, if you need to, you can bring that gear back to your 60% if you've gone higher. We're on. 2 minutes. We're gonna build up to 115. So starting here at 105, we'll move incrementally up over the next 2 minutes. We're not touching our gearing, so make sure you're in a good space. And bringing that leg speed up towards 110. Just past 30 seconds in. Let's find 110. This is where we ended our last set. So we're returning to this overreaching spot to set up to go a bit higher, a bit faster. And start moving up 111, 112. Keeping your gearing the same unless you're getting a little too hard. I don't want anyone to be much over 70, 75% at the top. If you're in and around 60, that's perfect. Keep moving up. Let's find that 115. We have 30 seconds to go. Let's be at 115 for this entire 30 seconds. Come on. Move those legs. Nice circles. Good work. Keep it going. 5 more seconds. Don't stop. In 3, 2, 1. Back to our 1 minute easy. 30 to 50%, 3 or 5 out of 10. And your preferred cadence in that 90 to 100 range. We have 1 more of these to go. We're going to see how fast we can move our legs in our 2-minute set. Just catch your breath, have a sip of water. If you've been doing these drills in and around your 50, why don't you move that up towards your 60? If you're already at your 60, it's a good place to be. You can take a little bit more, maybe up to your 65. But again, we're not trying to put pressure on the legs. And we're on for our first minute here, 50 to 60%, your preferred cadence. Let's settle back in. Most of you are probably already there. And slowly start moving that RPM up. Move that cadence up through the mid-90s. Getting towards 100. Checking our core. Making sure you can keep a nice deep breath. Should be at or around 105 now. 10 seconds. Then we're moving into our 2 minutes. So you can back your gear back down to 60%. If you've exceeded that, we're on now, 2-minute build. We're gonna see if we can touch above 115 up to 120. So settle in at this 105. We're gonna keep moving up every 30 seconds. That's it. And bringing up that leg speed. Let's find 110. Not touching your gearing here. And starting to inch it up. Closer to 115. Come on. A little bit more speed. And try and find 115 now. Our legs are learning how to fire fast. Yet another skill that is important in building the all-around cyclist, mountain biker, gravel rider, triathlete. And if you've got it in you, let's start moving towards 120, 120 plus. Up, up, up. Come on. Top of our cadence pyramid. Bring that leg speed up. Look up the road. That's it. Over 120. And just hang in there. Got 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Back to our easy 30 to 50%, your preferred cadence. We're 1 minute here to finish the 4th set. And then we'll have 1 minute transition and go back to single leg. We're going to reawaken those hip flexors to close out our workout today. Make sure your easy right now is below 50%. High leg speed, welcome. And slowing down your breath. We have 1 more minute. Stay right here. Have a little quick check with your left and your right sides. Are your feet doing the same thing? Or is one pointing down more than the other? When you're coming through the bottom of that pedal stroke, can you feel your heel, at least energetically, if not slightly, motion moving back into the back of your shoe to pull up the back of that pedal stroke? And then up and over. In another 15 seconds, we're going to begin our second set of single-legged drills. Just like the first, 30 seconds on each side, and then 60. So let's get ready to take that left leg out in 3, 2, 1. If you found your single-legged drill in the first set, that you were doing it at a certain cadence and certain wattage, now that you're really warmed up and those hip flexors have had a really good warm up, maybe experiment with something a little different. Maybe a lower cadence, slightly harder gear, nothing too heavy, still in that maximum 80 to 100 watt output, but just see how that feels. And first leg back on, a couple of pedal strokes together. And right leg out. 30 seconds. Focusing on the pulling through and up the back. Nice and smooth. If you're finding this too taxing on the hip flexors or the calves or shins, definitely put both feet back on. And 3, 2, 1. Both feet back on. And left leg out for 60 seconds, 1 minute. Another very, very useful application of the single leg drill is injury recovery. This is something that you can often get on far ahead of getting on the road, of course, or into other movement applications. So for both if you have an injured leg, injured part of that one side, it's good for that. It's also good for keeping the other side strong when you can't move the injured leg. So there's many applications for this. It's an ideal training tool in this base building time of year. Working out the body imbalances. 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Both feet back on. And right leg off for your final minute here. So do you feel balanced? You're not leaning off to one side or the other. You can take one arm off, the other arm off without tipping over. You can play around with that as well. Ideally, when you're taking your arm off, keeping it above your handlebars. It's not quite so natural to be doing all this stuff, unless you're getting something out of your back pocket. Nice and smooth. 25 more seconds. Nice work. So we're working on that pedal stroke. And I do keep forgetting to introduce myself at the top of the class. I'm Colleen, coaching with TAG outside and now inside for the last 5 years or so. And I've been with TAG pretty much since Leslie and Gina opened the doors in 2010. It's awesome to be here working with you. Let's put both feet back on. Find yourself a cool down, and we are done for today.